Hello class and welcome to our 14th lecture series on microeconomics, and I'm your instructor Jamal Haider. Okay, today we are starting chapter number 18. So up till now what we have covered? We have covered the markets. After the mid we have covered the markets. The perfect competition, monopoly, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and then we discuss about the summary or revision for all the market structures. So what we have did in our, while we were studying the markets, we talked about the price. What should be the price and what should be the profit, right? According to production decision, right? For example, what should be the price of these Qmax? And that would be the price we produce Qmax to get maximum. We produce Qmax to get maximum profit. So we only talked about the finished goods, right? For example, if I'm selling the soda, so I'm not talking about the raw material prices, right? I'm just talking about the finished goods prices. If I'm talking about the cookies, so I'm not talking about the price of sugar, the price of flour, right? I'm just talking about the finished goods product price. That's it. So these markets are also categorized on the basis of finished goods. But today we'll talk about the factors of production. How, what are the markets for factor of productions? How they are, their price or their cost is determined. So let's talk about this. So first of all, we are going to have our introduction. The introduction is that, so when you finish school, your income is determined largely by what kind of job you take. Some of you guys will go to some supply chain, some other go to marketing, some other go to HR, some will go to the finance side, right? And also, did you notice that the computer programmers are paid higher than the gas station attendants? We already know that the attendant on the gas station is paid a little bit lower salary. Is there any law, or is this ethical, that we should give the gas filling station attendant the lower salary? There is no law regarding that one. Plus, there is not any ethical guidance over there. Then what determine which job pay you the higher wages? Today we'll talk about how they are determined, and in our coming lecture, or maybe the next lecture, we'll talk about, is there any discrimination? Right? We heard a lot of news about that blacks are paid lower salaries, whites are paid higher salaries, women are paid lower salary than the males. We'll talk about these kind of differences, and we try to answer with the perspective of economics. So let's talk about further. So to our today's agenda is that we will find out what are the market for factor of production. So what then determine which job pay you higher wages? So remember, the market for factor of production. So what are the factor of production? All the things that are used to make final goods that is consumed by the consumer, final consumer. Before that, everything is included as a factor of production. So remember, the factor of production are the inputs used to produce goods and services. And which goods and services? The final goods and services that is ready to be consumed, not the ready to be transformed, right? It means still you need to process it. No, when you process it and it's ready to sell, right? So the demand for factor of production is a derived demand. What does it mean? So as the name implies, derived, which means the demand is derived from something else, right? So what do we mean by derived? It means a firm's demand for factor of production is derived from its decision to supply a good in another market. For example, so the demand for computer programmers and gas attendants depends on supply of computer programs and gasoline. If there is no gasoline, then of course there is no demand for gas attendants. If there is no demand for computer programs, or if there is no supply of computer programs, you don't see many computer programs in the market, then of course demand for computer programmers, they will decrease. Right, guys? So the demand for factor of production is derived demand. So labor markets, like other markets, now we're talking about the, okay, let me explain. The factor of productions, they are all the inputs that are used to make final goods and services. So factor of productions are, I think these are on some other far away slides, so I'm just going to explain here. So labor, land, capital. So we are now discussing what is the demand for first factor of production, labor, and then we'll talk about the land, and then we talk about capital, right? So labor, like other markets in economy, they are governed by the forces of supply and demand. So let's talk about first demand for labor. And what we talk about the demand for factor of production, they are derived demand. What does it mean? It means the demand for of labor, if we talk about the labor, so demand for labor is determined by supply of final product or the price of the final product. So let's talk about, if you don't understand right now, so we'll further explain it here. So this is the market for apples, right? This is the price of apple, this is the quantity of apple. So right now market is in equilibrium if we are here, right? So, and this is the market for apple picker, which means this is the market for labors, right? And the price of labor is called the wages, quantity of labor is called the quantity of apple picker, right? So its demand is same, it follows the law of demand as well, but it is a derived demand, which depends on the market of apples. So that's why we call this is a derived demand. So here we go. So we have here the apple producers' demand for apple pickers, which is derived from the market demand for apples, right? So apple producers, those who grow, those who supply the apples, right? They demand, let me change the color, or let me just remove all the mess here so that you can understand well. Here. So the apple producers demand for apple pickers. So suppliers of apples or producers of apple, they demand for apple pickers, and it's because the market demand of apple. It means suppliers will demand, the laborers depends on demand of apple. which means product. If you don't understand that, then let me just give you a very easy example here. Supply. So let's talk about the Apple example. If the price of Apple is right now $10 per kg, right? And what if the price of Apple increases to $13 per kg? So supplier, what they would do? They will hire more apple pickers, right? Because price has now increased, so they'll hire more apple pickers to pick the apples. So when they hire more apple pickers, what does it mean? Demand for apple pickers increase. So that's why we say that the demand for factory production or demand for apple pickers or labor is a derived demand that depends on the price of the final product, right? Not on the wages of the labor, the final product, the market product, right? Guys, do you understand what I'm saying? David, Dijodi, Faik, Jacob, Nam, Pinyo, Subhan. Right, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So that's the trick here. So here, this is not the independent market because this market depends on the market of final products. The final product is Apple. And this is the factor of production. One factor of production, that is labor, apple picker, right? So now the competitive profit maximizing firm. So remember, most labor services, rather than being final goods ready to be consumed by the consumer, they are called input into the production of the goods. Now let's talk about how a firm can maximize its profit through factor of production. Recall our discussion. What is the formula for profit? Profit is equal to